So today going to be testing the Bufano non-stick fondue pot. Got it on Amazon. Oh, it's around $50 or so. And this is it. It has a hot plate that plugs in, so it's electric. And then it has a non-stick pan. And then this is to help keep the forks in place. And the forks are color-coded, so people can keep track of their color. That way they don't get their forks mixed up. And they rest just like that on the lid. And so, gonna need a cutting board and some basic tools like a knife there. And a box grater would be easier, but I don't have a box grater, so I'm using the handheld grater. Okay. And then this is going to be a Alpine Swiss cheese dip, and I've got 2 pounds of Swiss cheese here. Okay, and I'm going to cut away 1/4 of this block because I want to have 2 pounds of cheese, and this is 5 ounces of gruyere. And gruyere just gives it a unique flavor, a little kick. And if a cheese says gruyere, it is from Gruyere, Switzerland. That is a law. If it's called gruyere, it has to be from Gruyere. This is Murray's, and the rind has already been cut away. And so, gonna need a few other basic things. Dippers are all up to you. Whatever you want for dippers. Bite size. I'll be cutting this into bite sizes. A French baguette. And going to need some cornstarch. This one is gluten-free. It is to be mixed with the Swiss cheese after it's grated. I'll go more into that later. Dry mustard, nutmeg, white wine. Okay, this one is gluten-free also. It's Barefoot Sauvignon Blanc, and it needs to be a dry white wine. This is a cherry liqueur. I'm using it in place of cherry kirsch. And usually it would be kirsch that would be used, but I can't find any. The thing about cherry liqueur, though, is it's very sweet. So I wouldn't use as much of this as I would the kirsch. But since I can't find kirsch, this is what I got. And I'm going to use some green olives and petite dill, and cherry tomatoes and apple slices and little smokies, okay, for my cheese dip. I'm going to be cutting all of this. I'm going to be cutting up the apples and the bread, like I said. And anything that's like pickled or anything like that, or after you rinse the tomatoes and apples, need to dry it off really good before it goes into the cheese dip. And so now I'm going to move on to showing you how to prepare the cheese dip. The apple cut into bite-sized pieces, and now it's time to cut the baguette. I'm going to cut it lengthwise first, and I'm using this Mercer 10-inch bread knife. It's also great for tomatoes, but anyway, here's what the packaging looks like. It is the Millennia wavy edge, and it is really lightweight. It's really a good knife because it has maybe 20 something on the points or the teeth. And that helps you cut through bread and tomatoes a lot easier. The more teeth you have, the harder it is. And so it's also slightly curved, but it's just a really good knife. I got it on Amazon. And so now, since I've cut this lengthwise, I'm going to now go with maybe 1-inch sections and cut this into bite-sized pieces. Safety tip before you start cutting, put a towel under your cutting board so that it won't slip around on you. Started grating the cheese, okay, and I break it down into 4 pieces. It's just easier to use the grater. Okay, so during the grating process, the pieces get too small to safely continue grating, which could cause you to cut your fingers. So I just take these pieces And I just cut them into smaller pieces like that. It's the next best thing to grating it. So here we go. All the cheese is grated, and I have all of the dippers dried off. The little smokies, I'm going to cut those in half, and I'm going to heat those right before serving. Take this 1/4 pound of cheese that I cut away to make room for the gruyere and put it back in the refrigerator. Now I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of cornstarch on the cheese. And the cornstarch is for thickening and emulsification, so you do need it. And like I said, there are gluten-free brands like this one. And I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to give it a really good shake. This is a garlic clove, and it's been peeled and slightly mashed. And I'm going to use this to rub the inside of the pot with the garlic before adding the wine and the cheese and the rest of the ingredients. Okay, I've placed the fondue pot and warmer inside of a baking dish. It needs to be something heat safe. It helps to protect your table, and it'll also help to contain any dripping or anything with the cheese. All right, before you plug in or unplug this appliance, you want to set the dial to 1, okay? And then after you've plugged it in, turn it on 5 and let it heat up real good. And I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of wine. I'm going to start with that, okay? And then I'm going to add about half this cheese, okay? It doesn't take long for this thing to get hot, okay? And you don't want to fill it to more than 80% capacity, okay? And so, of course, I'm going to have some cheese over here left over, which is fine, okay? And that's about half of it right there, okay? And I'm going to use silicone appliances like a silicone spatula or this silicone whisk in order to protect the surface. I may add more wine, but I wanted to start with 1/2 cup. And it's going a little too fast, so I'm going to turn it down to 4. Let me see here. I believe that's 4. Trying to, yeah, okay. Got to control the heat. We don't want to burn the cheese or anything. We're going to continually stir. And then after the cheese is melted and everything's smooth, which might take a few minutes and some stirring, but you want to stay with it. You want to stir constantly. And if you think that the cheese is too hot or it's going to burn or something like that, you can remove it. But as you can see, it's starting to thin down really nicely. It's starting to get a good consistency. I think I'm going to turn it down to 3. Okay, sorry about that. And now I'm going to turn it all the way back down to 1. Because this is going really quickly. And like I said, I don't want to burn my cheese. I think I'm going to add just a little more wine. Maybe a 1/4 cup. There we go. Because some of it has evaporated during this process. Okay. Can you make this without alcohol? I don't know. I've never tried. I'm sure that there's some recipes on the internet that are alcohol free. Then I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of the mustard dry mustard. Give that a stir. Then I'm going to add just about a 1/16 of a teaspoon or a pinch of nutmeg. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of the cherry liqueur. Like I said, you don't want to add too much because it's really sweet. Okay. And so I've got this on 1 now, I believe. Yeah, there we go. And so now that that's going, I'm going to add another 1/2 cup of wine. And I'm going to add the rest of the cheese. And this would be fondue for about 12 people. 6 to 12. And again, no more than 80% capacity, and that's about what we've got here. It's just easier to add this more slowly than it is to try to do it all at once. So stay with it and keep stirring. I think I'm going to have to add maybe another 1/4 cup of wine to get a thinner consistency. Then I'll give it a test taste. I might actually need to thin it down just a little bit more. So you get the idea. You just work with it kind of slowly. So as you can see, this will hold a 2 pounds of cheese recipe. You can also do beer and cheddar. You can do a lot of different types of cheeses. There we go. I might have to turn up the heat just a little bit, but I don't want to turn it up too high. As you have seen, this gets really, really hot. And then when it gets the consistency that you like, you can put this back on and you're ready to start serving. So now I'm going to give it a test taste. All right, and I'm going to be careful not to scrape the fork tines against the non-stick surface. I'm going to give this a try. Oh wow, that is really good. Okay, so after you're finished, this is a non-stick pan, so it will warp under certain conditions. So what you want to do is empty it. You want to let it completely cool to room temperature, and then you want to hand wash it. Non-stick cookware really shouldn't go in the dishwasher. If you hand wash it, it will last a lot longer and it won't warp. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a comment, a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a great day.